शिव शंकर शरण आवत तुम्हारे अभयंकर शरण आवत तुम्हारे अभयंकर जय गिरिजापति दीन दयाला जय गिरिजापति दीन दयाला सदा करत संतन प्रतिपाला महादेव शंभो शिव शंकर महादेव शंभो शिव शंकर
of literature and conversations. The Prabha Khaitan Foundation, founded by the late Dr. Prabha Khaitan in Kolkata, as we know, embodies her belief that Karm hi Jeevan hai, work is life. Dedicated to promoting arts, culture, education, literature, gender equality, and women's empowerment, it hosts various events globally, connecting authors and artists with audiences through initiatives like the Right Circle, Kalam, Loves, and more. The Right Circle unites English language writers and readers in interactive sessions exploring authors' lives and works. Originating in Jaipur, it now hosts sessions nationwide and internationally, fostering engaging literary discussions. Right Circle is an initiative of Prabha Khaitan Foundation in association with Ehsas Udaipur. It is supported by Shree Cement as its CSR initiative. Its hospitality partner is Hotel Radisson Blu. The views taken by the speakers are personal and Prabha Khaitan Foundation does not mirror the said views. Viewer discretion is advised.
On this vibrant occasion of Holi, it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Mrs. Lakshmi Puri, a trailblazer in the realm of diplomacy and an adherent advocate of gender equality. Her name resonates as a beacon of resilience, integrity, and unwavering commitment to global progress. With a career spanning several illustrious decades within the United Nations system, Lakshmiji's journey serves as a testament to the transformative power of diplomacy in advancing peace, equality, sustainable development worldwide. Born into a family deeply rooted in service and public affairs, Lakshmiji's upbringing instilled in her a profound sense of responsibility towards societal change and justice. Throughout her remarkable career, Lakshmiji has held pivotal roles within the United Nations, each one a testament to her indomitable spirit and unwavering dedication to the organization's principles. From representing her native India on the global stage to assuming leadership positions within various UN agencies, Lakshmiji has consistently championed the cause of gender equality and women's empowerment as central tenets of sustainable development. Lakshmiji has been an Indian Foreign Service diplomat for 28 years. She served in leadership positions at United Nations for 15 years, most recently as its Assistant Secretary General. She was the leader in the first global organization to promote gender equality, UNWomen, for 7 foundational years. She is the recipient of Eleanor Roosevelt Award for Human Rights, amongst others. Today, as a reverent stateswoman of diplomacy, Lakshmiji continues to lend her expertise and mentorship to emerging leaders, fostering a new generation of diplomats committed to upholding the values of United Nations. Her legacy serves as a beacon of hope and inspiration and reminding us all of the transformative power of diplomacy in building a brighter, more inclusive future for generations to come. So on this joyous occasion of Holi, let us not only celebrate the vibrant colors of the festival, but also the remarkable contributions of Lakshmi Puri to our collective journey towards a more harmonious and equitable world as we embark on an enriching conversation with her. May I just ask Swati Agarwal, SAS Women of Udaipur and owner Radisson Blue, to take this forward.
Thank you, Moma.
Great pleasure. And I think one thing that was not said about my CV is my love of Rajasthan and Udaipur in particular. So I'm so happy to be here in your city, and also apologize that I'm taking you all away from the holy celebrations at home, but I hope this will substitute a little bit ahead of the main celebrations tomorrow.
Absolutely. You being here is adding more color to us, to our literary and cultural canvas than anything else can. So thank you so much. And I'm so honored to be sharing this space with you today. You've been a veteran diplomat, a paragon of transformative leadership, and one has seen you now with your debutante novel, which is touted to be one of the most powerful narratives of the 21st century, your first book. Congratulations on that, ma'am. And
Thank you.
And I'll dive deep into the book straight away. Your book is set in a very tumultuous time for Indian history, the patriotic movement, the freedom struggle. Considering someone like you, who has this vast world view, who've been at the helm of affair of world politics, why did you choose the Indian independence struggle? Was it your deep connection and your historical know-how of that time? Was it a arousal of patriotic fervor? Or is it your way of giving back and giving this generation a sneak peek into the trials and tribulations of 1947?
Well, you've said it all. You know, they say that an Indian diplomat, at least as I see it and as I have lived it, is first and foremost a nationalist and a patriot, because you are representing your country abroad. And over the years, I have been obsessed with first of all, the quest for India's greatness, which it deserves, and India assuming its rightful place in the world. And the other aspect that I have always kept in mind and also articulated is, how do we keep reimagining India to bring it to that great place? So now the question is, why do we go back? I go back to what I call the true past. A true past is that part of history where goodness and truth, the striving for that, was the keenest. And look at the period that I've covered, 1918 to 1950. That was the most potent period of the freedom struggle. And that is the background, that's the backdrop. And my characters, mostly young people, engage in this struggle even as and most of them are also Western educated youth. So even as they reimagine themselves, they reimagine the society around them, because even that is changing rapidly, and old concepts are being reinterpreted, and at the same time there is a civilizational reawakening happening and a cultural efflorescence taking place. And most of all, of course, this, although it is a pan-India novel and it covers the freedom movement in all of the places like in central India, in Guna and Madhya Pradesh, Indore. It covers Banaras, Simla, Delhi, but most of all it is in Mumbai. And there the Marathi literary and cultural efflorescence provides a certain soul force to both the novel and to the freedom struggle. So that was the context in which I chose this period. But equally, as you said, it is inspired by my parents, Krishna Ganesh Murdeshwar, and my mother, Malti Desai. And it is their engagement in the freedom struggle, but also their journeys, their personal history, personal journey, as much as it intermeshed with the national history. That's what is so fascinating, and that's what I've tried to bring out. But it is not, of course, a biography. And I wanted it to be inspired by them, but I also wanted it to be something that not only speaks, because biographies speak to the intellect, but I wanted this to speak to the heart. And I wanted it to be infused with poetry so that it speaks to the soul. So that is why it is, and you know, my editor, the legendary writer and author himself, and has described this novel as an epic feat of remembering and storytelling. So I, have been reflecting on how it all came together, and I found that there is an overlapping world of memories that are woven into this novel. There is the memory of what happened and who were there. Then, how do you remember that? Because there is an interpretation in remembering something. And then there is that filigree that you draw of imagination over those memories. And I'll give you one small example. There is a very beautiful description in Banaras of Guru, the hero, visiting Malti, the heroine, who's working there alone and supporting. They're not yet married, but he's visiting, and her sister and the sister's boyfriend, shall we call him, is also visiting, and they are doing this Ganga Snan in the morning, and also, salutation to the sun. So long ago, many years ago, I saw one black and white photo of my mother dipping in the Ganges, and a photo of hers with her hair open, and just a black and white, very simple photo. But that memory triggered this whole scene and the love letter that he then writes after going back, because he takes a photograph of her emerging firstly in the water and then emerging from the water, and then, so there is this mesh of memories that are woven into this, and then the rest is the third eye of imagination that you bring into it.
Yes, so very ingeniously you have blend the real and the fiction in your novel, and drawing inspiration from your parents' life and the poignant exchange of letters And I think with that kind of realism which you've played with, it's given a lot of emotional resonance to the book, it's given a lot of personal depth to the book. And your autobiographical scent seems to be there, and now you've infused that further. Like you said, you're narrating and you're creating. So this kind of storytelling, which is so layered, goes a long way, and that's why your book is what it is, and we can totally see it living a really long life and being there for generations to say. But I would want you to highlight that when you were writing the entire narrative for the story, was this very intentional to layer it like this?
Yes, the kernel of the story, as I said, was my parents' journey. But I wanted to write. I wanted to be it to be an act of creation. As I've very immodestly talked about this, saying that I wanted to play God or goddess, and so you create characters, you push them around, you challenge them, you destroy them at will, as if you are playing God. Yes. So there is that joy and there is that intent. But of course, I discovered also that when you are writing, you are not in control all the time. There are times when your characters just appear to you. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I used to get up and say, oh, I must create this character, or I must make her go this way or that way. So those epiphanies come to you as you go along, as much as there is some design. There is a combination of design, imagination, and that, those strokes of revelations that come to you even as you go along. But I just want to also say that, coming back to your earlier point about why did I go to that period, I also wanted it. I went back to that period because so much of that period resonates with our present. We are at that, that inflection point in the evolution of our nation, where we are at last reclaiming our confidence, we are reclaiming our civilizational glory, our civilizational strength, and we are invoking it. That's the, really the right period for us to invoke another period where we were trying to, right now, as Prime Minister Modi says, we are trying to shed gulami ki mansikta, the colonial mentality. Then we are trying to shed the sum and substance and the spirit and substance of colonialism itself. But now it's another shackle that we are trying to throw away. And that's why I wanted young people to go back to that era of heroism. And I also explored this whole concept of who is a hero and shield. That's the other part. The independence movement. Yes, they are not recorded in the pages of history as we know today. But they were real people who actually gave their all and tried to contribute their might in whichever way they could. And without them, the Gandhis and the Savarkars would not have succeeded, and Netaji would not have succeeded in giving us independence.
Absolutely. A tribute to the unsung heroes.
Unsung heroes, and also that today the young people should pick up that pick up those instruments of agency. Take on the agency which is so important in whichever field they are, and contribute to our next goal of India making, which is the Viksit Bharat. So all of that I think is captured in that, as I said, the true past.
Absolutely, and it's great to know that your book is actually going to be a catalyst for so many, as we are going to have India awakening, and there is a certain palpable energy that we see in the nation right now, and the timing of the book is absolutely fantastic. Moving on, ma'am, you have created very masterfully crafted and created characters which kind of defy stereotypes. When I see it from a feminist lens, the character of Malti, for example, she is self-assured, she's self-reliant, she's empowered, she wants to pursue education. And at the same time, what is very interesting is that the male characters you've created, Baba, her father, is steering her away from child marriage, from child motherhood, her lover Guru, very, very empathetic. So what is interesting is that you have created male characters who are actually agents of empowerment. And I don't think women can get empowered if it's not, hand in hand. So this thought process, is it that you're feminist at heart? Is it your years at UN Women? What is it, and where did this stem from?
You always give me the answers in your questions. Thank you. No, I think it is all of that. My parents were feminists. My mother is, in many ways, her character is reflected in the character of Malti. She was also Malti Desai, and the character is also Malti. And that spirit, that grit, and she would always say, don't ever cry, don't shed tears, you have to be strong, otherwise you fall into the stereotype of women, weak women. Women are strong. And then, of course, they believed she herself was a pioneering graduate, and then went on to study law, then went on to work and support my father, because they had, my grandfather had kind of excommunicated him because he was wanting to marry her. It was an intercaste love affair, and then leading on to marriage. So all of that, they were iconoclasts and feminists. So that was in any case ingrained in me, and he believed that all of us we were 3 daughters, and I think fathers have a very major role to play in the empowerment of women. And my father was, very empowering in so many ways, intellectually most of all. I remember on my 15th birthday, I got Simone de Beauvoir's book, The Second Sex, as a birthday gift. So, he was empowering me ideationally as much as, emotionally. So, so that is the background. But of course, the journey itself their journey itself was like that, as I have described. And somebody the other day at at one of my book discussions, one of the critics got up and said that I accuse you of creating 4-dimensional characters. Actually, she said 3-dimensional. Then I thought about it. Actually, there are 4-dimensional characters which we don't find today, and which would be difficult to live up to. But I disagree. I think we have to hold up these role models. They were there. But of course, it doesn't mean that they were all the time infallible. Yes, they were emotionally, intellectually, physically, and in terms of intentionally. The 4th dimension is intention. So in those endowed, but that doesn't mean that they were not, they didn't have their vulnerabilities, their moments of loss, their triumphs and their tragedies. But it is also an indication these ideals that we create are actually success stories that we hold up as role models for all people of all ages today. You know, Baba was an older person, but he's a role model. Younger people also, Guru, and the way his friendship with Malvi, which is a very empowering friendship. Women respecting friendship of both Ram and Guru, and even Shyam, you know, the other love. So there are these characters who, in a way, show the way of the true Ardhanarishwar kind of, you know, again, a civilizational invoking of concepts which are really empowering. And as far as the women characters are concerned, I agree with you that I really indulged myself in creating a number of these women characters who defy tradition, who want to break boundaries, who are truth-seeking, justice-seeking, but also want to be extraordinary, do something different and extraordinary. And sometimes it ends with, and also who want to break out of the victim mode, you know. And even our traditional, like the mother and the young elder sister, even though they are very much in that Stri Dharma mode, the fifth caste, women being the fifth caste mode, but even they have their breakouts.
Correct.
So, you know, so these are very much, you know, you've captured it very well, that these are, in fact, they are perfect foils to each other, the characters.
Yes, you know, some
And
as
it is a feminist. So I use tradition, if I may add. I use the epics, I use the traditions to demolish the misinterpretation of tradition by patriarchy, to justify, you know, that women are weaker, that women's place is at home, that it's not every place, all of that. And for example, there is a very amusing sequence where Sarna, this 16-year-old girl, 16, 17-year-old, who's just got married, and she's complaining that her husband is not showing any desire and passion. So these two girls who are younger turn around, but also already quite learned, because they are studying Sanskrit and they are quoting from Kautilya and elsewhere. So these girls turn around and say, but women are not supposed to have any desire. So she turns around and says, who says that? Sarla says, who says that? Kautilya said that women have twice the appetite for food than men, 8 times the sexual desire than men. They are twice as astute and 6 times as courageous. So the girls think that she is pilling, you know, she has a habit of making these grandiose statements. But then she quotes the Sanskrit verse. So these are the kind of ways in which I have also subtly tried to demolish and to use tradition and Manu and Kautilya and our epics to deconstruct gender stereotypes.
Absolutely, you know, when one is going through your novel, what really stands out is, which are part of the novel, part of the narrative, there is poetry, there is Marathi theatre, there's dance, there's drama. It's culturally so rich and so empowering that today one can actually feel a poverty of arts, you know, when one is flipping through the book. And I can totally perceive that growing up, you must have grown up in an environment which was steeped in the arts, which believed in arts. Your conversations at home must have been like that, because that reflects in your narrative. Moving away from the times you grew up in and coming to today's time where everything is fast paced, there's instant gratification, there are fleeting trends. Somewhere there's a constant barrage of digital distractions. So what is your plea, your message to parents, to young adults, to the audience over here on going forward? How do we restore our cultural heritage and how do we value it?
As you rightly said, in a very literary household, both my parents were Vidwans and very literary oriented in 3 languages: Sanskrit, Marathi and English.
Very enviable man.
And my father in particular, there is Ranjit Hoskote, whom you met in Mumbai. He's written a poem called The Poet, and he begins by saying he married bird song. So my father was like that. He married bird song. And he would sit with he would read many books of poems. He was, by the way, a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer, and to also mention that in the book, the character towards the end is part of the constitution making and supported Ambedkar ji. So my father was part of that one. So he was otherwise a lawyer, a brilliant lawyer, but a poet at heart. And every evening, one of the memorable memories that we carry, and which I carry into the book, is of him singing to us a poem from one of his favorite poems, which he had a book of and which he bequeathed to me, and which I cherish very much. And it was amazing how for every poem he had a different tune. So, if you permit me, let me share with you the range of poems that he would read out, and then I come to what is my message for this generation. So there is what I wanted to do with this novel is to make poetry. Poetry is something that helps you, express thoughts as as if it is that they are breathing. When thoughts are breathing, that's poetry. When birds sing you with their power, that's poetry. And I have been again accused by critics. No, I'm saying it in zest. I think I've been very fortunate. People have said that even my prose is lyrical and it sings, the novel sings. So the reason is that this is, poetry really is the way to reveal the truth, the inner truth of any human situation, and which a novel seeks to also do. So this is one poem which I've used to Balkavi, one of the great Marathi poets, and which I have transliterated all the poems, Marathi poems that I have used. But I have also composed some of my own poetry, which really is about deifying reality. Guru writes an ode for Madhumalini, and he deifies her. So those are some of the poems that I would like to share with you. But the first one is by Balkavi, and it is an ode to the evening goddess and her love letter, Prem Link. I think many of you, I don't know how many of you are Marathi knowing here. You are, okay. I'm glad to see some of you who are Marathi knowing. And to others, I think Hindi knowing people will also recognize many of the words. Please forgive me if my voice cracks, but I will try my best because I'm still recovering from मेघांचे करी भूर्जपथ अस्तांजली प्रत्यही स्वर्गीचे नवलेख कुमकुम रसे ती सांध्य देवी लिही रात्री शांत गभीर अंबुनिधीच्या आनील पृष्ठावरी लज्जालेख लिही विकंपित करे ती तारका सुंदरी सारे ते मग लेख तुच्छ गमती चित्ताची आलोचनी तिचा अक्षय लेख एकच उभा मी मग्न पारायणी मी मग्न पारायणी. Birch bark of clouds in her hand, the glorious sunset as a perennial witness grand, her pen dipped in the red sap of my love infinite, the evening goddess writes a new missive exquisite. With enchanting shyness, her cheeks suffused, my beloved rests her lotus head on my chest bemused. She creates our love epistles mystique in the poetic language of her breaths unique. All those other lyrical outpourings magnificent, in my heart's eyes seem so trivial and insignificant. For I am the sole rapt and discerning reader vernal in the universe of this my beloved's love letter eternal.
Wow, absolutely.
Then you see the patriotic fervor, and I will not necessarily translate everything. I would encourage you to read it in the book. So there is this Yashwant's poem which captures the patriotic fervor of that time, where the soul was, not to be imprisoned. So it's called Turungacha Darat, and it goes like this. कारागृहाच्या भिंतीची उंची किती मनमना नाही शिती भिंतीच्या उंचीत राहे काय आत्मा कोंडुनी मुक्त तो रात्रंदिनी भक्तीला जो पूर आला वाढतो तो अंतरी पायरी ने पायरी. So this is the Veer Ras kind of poem, and then there is, of course, the very, very empowering poem, which is also about how both men and women at that time were trying to reclaim. It was an act of reclamation of their confidence, and there is a poem which I consider an anthem in this book. You have your Prabha Khaitan Foundation anthem. So this is a kind of anthem of empowerment of all Indians, but of course very much also the women and men in this characters in this book. So this is N.V. Tilak's poem, which says, भूला हवे ते मला काय त्याचे पुरे जाणतो मीच माझे बळ. Jauntily holding an elephant calf in one hand, in the other with a lion's cub mewling I stand. The majestic tiger, half dead with fear, peeps from his hiding place for his life dear. These mountains are mere rocks to deceive. The waves of the ocean are like trembling leaves. Recognizing myself, my name I proudly bear. I'm truly self-realized and self-aware. No need have I of a mirror. Why do I seek a path clearer? Am I not complete and auspicious? Am I not complete and auspicious? And particularly for women at that time, you know, this was an important affirmation. Kulachini kehte the na. But this is, am I not complete and auspicious? The purpose of God's creation felicities. The purpose of God's creation felicities. It matters not to me what is your opinion. I well know my own strength and dominion. So this is also applies to, you know, when foreign countries and governments try to tell us what we should be doing or what judge us from out there. This is a very fitting reply to them as well.
Wow, absolutely envious seeing that so many talents cannot be with one person, from histrionics to music to words. I'm absolutely literary genius we have with us today. But
if you permit me also one poem,
absolutely,
which is my
please.
original composition. I just want to read a few lines from it because it is about how this is an epic love story. You know, you said it is about the freedom struggle. That is the big background and the meta story. But it is much more than that. This is a novel which is an epic love story in epic times. It is a grand romance of the kind that has not been written in recent times, as many have noted. It is a coming of age novel. It traces the life of these young girls and those whom they come across from childhood till they are about 45. And it is a family saga. So there are so many layers, as you said earlier on, so many stories within stories, which I hope you will find, you know, engaging. So, in terms of the romance and the man-woman relationship, I have tried to again invoke the goddess. You know, in our Indian tradition, we talk about yatra naris pujante ramante tatra devata. But in actual fact, are we following those principles? So we have to remind ourselves. So here, Guru, on his own, as a poet and as a lover, invokes the goddess in her. And this is that poem. Madhumalti, you are the goddess, installed in my temple's sanctum sanctorum, to the exhilarating heartbeats of celestial drums, my fevered chanting and joyous limpid songs. You accept me as your devotee, and I pledge my whole life to you, my dreams, dreamt and undreamt, for you to see and turn into miracles. The nightmares, those ghoulish pretenders to chase away with your trident and discuss. Your love fills my cup of yearning to be great for your sake, not for mine. This is a very profound thought. I aspire to reach yonder distant horizons untrammeled and swing back to my core where calm inner rivers of happiness flow, meander and rest. I will in turn shield you from non-believers in your divinity. And then he ends by saying, my Pancha Pran, the 5 vital life forces drawn from cosmic springs, I consecrate to you my Devi. Let the Spirit Divine merge my soul with yours and our bodies entwine. O Mother Malti, let the beguiling veil of Maya once and for all be pierced and fall between the manifest and the truth, between the striving and the attainment, between the worshipper and the worshipped, between me and you. So this becomes like a ring of recognition, Shakuntala's ring of recognition later on. And when Malti confronts Guru and tells him that he has forgotten that he is a worshipper of the goddess. So he turns around and says, no, you are misunderstanding me. I am still your worshipper, you are still my goddess. And she turns around and tells him, I am not a goddess because you made me so. This is one of the key dialogues in the novel. I am not a goddess because you made me so. I am a goddess because of who I am and what I have done for you.
So powerful and so brilliant. I'm coming with questions from the audience. The title of the book, Swallowing the Sun. They say the sun never set on the British Empire, but Lakshmi ji's taken it one step forward and she has swallowed it. Why the title and how does it taste?
That's a good one. You know, I was very fascinated by Saint Muktabai. She was a 13th century Varkari saint from Maharashtra, a woman saint, a teenage saint. I mean, everything about her was so fascinating and so also at once tragic, but also so uplifting. So I came across this, I think my mother must have drawn my attention to it because this is again the play of memory. I don't exactly remember when, what that revelation came. But I was fascinated by this abhanga, this devotional verse of Muktabai, which goes like this. Mungi udali akashi, tine gilde suryashi, thor navlav zhala, vaas putra prasavna, vinsu patalasi zai, shesh matha bandi pai. Mashi vyali khar zhali, dekho ni muktai hasi. Which means the ant flies into the sky, she swallows the sun. Another miracle, a barren woman gives birth to a son. The scorpion burrows down to the nether realms. The snake king Shesha bows at its feet. The housefly begets a hawk. Muktabai sees all, Muktabai laughs. So she was a mystical saint and this is a surreal poem, right? Everything impossible becoming possible. So this spirit of being able to do anything, and provided you dare, you keep faith, you are able to break boundaries, you are able to escape your circumstances, the limitations of your circumstances. I thought this was a very important theme and which runs like a leitmotif throughout the book. And it is demonstrated in the lives of the girls and the women, but also the men. And also as India, even. So there is one passage which in a way illustrates how it applied to the India of that time. And this is from Malti's perspective in a chapter called The Metamorphosis, aptly called The Metamorphosis. It says, Malti and Kamla had come to believe that they were living in Bombay at a time when everything was being turned inside out and upside down, the improbable Muktabai way. It was as if the small, sweet LG bananas, do you know these LG bananas? Grew with their ivory-colored, fragrant, sweet, pulpy flesh outside, enveloping their thin, yellow, blotchy skin inside. It was as if the Indian tiger had come out of the forest and sat supping with brown coolies at the starched linen-covered table in the Gymkhana Club of Bombay, being served by British sahibs in red and white uniforms, doubling over to please the natives. It was as if the frail Indian ascetic, with nothing but the sword of his soul force, the shield of his khadi loincloth, and the cannon fire of the Indian masses, was breaching the iron and stone battlements of the great British Empire, riding on the waves of his tremulous voice. They cherished their freedom to become part of this miracle making. Even if, as a tiny party, they did not want to lose that privilege.
Wow. Thank you, ma'am. Such a cultural renaissance of sorts, even in today evening, and I'm sure this book we will want to all see on celluloid at some point, and I'm sure there are plans and lots of people waiting to buy rights for the book. But we'd like to open the house for questions.
Just to respond to that, may your bhavishyavani come true. But yes, I am in contact with a number of, they are called creators of web series and so on. I'm in touch with, yes. And yeah, no, this is very dramatic and cinematic.
Yeah,
that's true.
And multiple characters, so much layering, great message.
Yes, and so many incidents.
Yeah.
Oh, I used to say that I can at least have 52 episodes.
So we have 3-4 seasons ready already. Thank you so much. Anyone for questions, you can raise your hands. We can send the mics across.
One was a subtle reference that you made to unsung heroes. So, history as we understand it, and you are referring to that very critical period, in the last century. So, do you think that this narrative needs to be changed a bit? Do you think that we've really sort of exceeded ourselves in that little slavish quest to worship false gods? I'm not trying to sort of belittle anybody.
I didn't get that last, to worship
false gods.
false gods.
During this critical period. But I think we've pushed it beyond a point, and I think the historical narrative needs to be changed a bit, and people need to be more conversant with some more aspects of our history, which I don't know the reasons. I'm sure Romila Thapar is a very eminent woman in her own right, but I have not really understood, is it deliberately brushed under the carpet? Does it suit somebody to do so? So this is one thing that I'd be happy if you comment on this, ma'am. And my second question is, you had a long and varied experience with the UN. Perhaps with the aim that it was originally intended to be created was not really met. In the latest context, now we have this crisis with Putin and Ukraine. People need to understand the historical perspective. Again, they are one for years and years and years. NATO also needs to be a little sensitive to it. Don't finger him too much. And what are the other vested interests involved? And doesn't the UN have any role to play at all? The situation could get out of control.
That we are clearly ignoring the unsung heroes. On the contrary, I think what we are doing right now is that we are bringing forth those lost stories of heroes, both in literature but also in terms of biographies. And Savarkar, there is so much now written about him. He was an unsung hero in so many ways because he had been vilified, he had been forgotten and pushed aside, even Netaji. So one is these kind of heroes, they need to be first of all reinstated, if I may say so, and given their due place. Sardar Patel, so, and that is being done. I'm also saying, and I agree with you, for example, the women heroes, the sheroes, Rani Lakshmi Bai, we keep talking about. Now, there are all these other great queens of the south, other places also. Every time I've seen that whenever Prime Minister goes anywhere, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, there are these queens from these places who were great freedom fighters. So we are, and it is part of civilizational reclaiming, that you bring back to life these heroes from our past. And then the third aspect is that the people who may not be at that same level of heroism, but who still made their contributions, and as I said, without whom that cumulative impact would not have happened of our being able to push out the British and reclaim our independence. I think that also needs to be now written and is being written by a number of people. And this is my little contribution to that as well. On your Russia, Ukraine, I have written a paper which I will draw your attention to. Very early in the conflict, February 2022, isn't it, when the conflict started? I wrote this in May, so you can go on the internet and have a look. Yes, it has been, UN has unfortunately at a very early stage compromised itself in terms of taking sides and has found itself in a very difficult position. Plus the UN Security Council is gridlocked because of the division in the P5, and it's also not reforming itself. So part of the reason for what the UN is are the major powers. It's their fault that the multilateral institutions are, as the Secretary General himself said, gridlocked in dysfunction. And India has been trying. In the G20, there were many steps taken, but again, the follow-up has to be done with the participation of the major powers, other major powers. So it is indeed a very dangerous situation. I agree with you. It can spiral out of control, but and there are other conflicts. So UN is unfortunately in many ways paralyzed at a time when it's most needed.
Thank you, ma'am. I heard Savarkar, it blew my mind absolutely when I heard that, and as to what the reasons were, and I had no idea that this man himself treated like an ordinary criminal or whatever. But what intellect? What intellect he had.
Yes.
And if you look at our history, partition, though we eulogize all these people like Mahatma Gandhi and all the rest of the people who played such crucial roles, yet it was just a series of blunder upon blunder upon blunder upon blunder. A partition where you suddenly had India, you had one country on the other edge, you just simply drew a line across and one country here, then the ethnicity of the people that were involved, trans-border, it was the same people, and what utter chaos. It was almost as if these men were sitting upon chaos and blundering all the way with the British just presiding over this mayhem. So, thank you, ma'am.
Your diplomacy over these so many years. My question is a little off track from the novel.
You see, depends on what kind of conflict resolution you are referring to, whether it's in the workplace or you are actually in trying to manage a relationship with another country which is conflictual. So there are two instances where I was involved in conflict resolution. One was when I was Under Secretary Pakistan, and as you know, that is, as one of my colleagues has recently written a book called Anger Management about Indo-Pak relations. So it was a case of constant anger management and provocation, and also you see, when the adversary is in a state of perpetual not only hatred, but it's a kind of all to hate, because if you go to the, I used to go to Pakistan so often, and the people used to always be so good and hospitable and nice, and they didn't seem to have the same animals that the state was showing. To really engage in a meaningful resolution of, or first of all recognizing the borders, existing borders, and also the terrorism. So it was that kind of relationship that we had to manage. And then there was the Sri Lanka ethnic conflict where we were involved. But that will require a much longer discourse then. But I just also want to say something about the letters that are there in this book. Since nobody asked me, I'm going to mention this. That, and the theatre, just two very quick points on that. 148 love letters of my father I found. And I know you said that for the young people, what should I be saying? Whether it is letters, whether it is poetry, I say to young people, and whether it is theatre or literature, I say to young people today that, these are such enriching, emotionally enriching pursuits that don't fall into the Insta trap for its own sake. I'm also seeing that Insta is now showing a lot of poetry. It's also showing drama and storytelling. I know you do something on storytelling here. And it is also, very much about communicating. Don't forget to communicate, either in writing, whether in writing or in communicating your ideas, your emotions, your intentions, because that's what the texture of human relationships are made of. So that is my certain, and there are lovely love letters here. And just one little one, if you don't mind, I'm going to read to you. I may.
Yes, ma'am, please.
It's one of the short ones I'm going to read. But this is when Malti is alone in Banaras, working, and Guru keeps writing letters to him. So first what I have explained, what is the purpose of these letters? So alive were Guru's letters that threatened to incarnate into Malti's alter ego, teasing her mind with riddles about the universe, dipping into her soul in contemplation, whispering confidences into her ears, serenading her unabashedly, touching her body with the feather of his words, giving advice when she was in a quandary, affirming her actions when she took adventurous decisions, sharing her disappointment at setbacks, yet not allowing her to rue her mistakes. So that was the purpose of this kind of communication. And I think poetry, I already explained the value. So I would say to young people, do that and look at this very sweet complaint that he has.
Ma'am, these are from the treasure trove of your father's love letters.
148 love letters that I found in a tin trunk when I was going on a posting in 1999. I do my usual pilgrimage to the letterbox and feel crestfallen when your letters do not arrive. I see this as a punishment for my coldness and formality perhaps, for I deserve no better than death, cold silence. It is such a horrid torture to wait for a letter that never arrives, or which sluggishly arrives the next morning. If at all, a troubled day, a sleepless night, an anxious heart and an ailing body. That is all my gain, dear Malti. How can you be so superbly careless when I am so punctiliously careful?
Good evening, everybody. Happy Holi to everyone, first of all. Ma'am, we really enjoyed. Thank you so much, Lakshmi ji, for this enlightening us with your wisdom and expertise have left a positive impact on all of us. We are truly grateful for the invaluable knowledge you've shared with us today, and we are extremely proud to have you in Udaipur. I would like to thank all of you for joining us today and supporting us all through. We extend our gratitude to Prabha Khaitan Foundation for their endeavors in the field of literature. Thanks to the members of media for your continuous support. A big thank you to Radisson Blue. Now I request my friend Ridhima Doshi to kindly come forward and present a small token of our love and respect to Lakshmi ji.
Can I also please take this opportunity to thank all of you for inviting me, Swati, Shraddha, all of you here and all the ladies of the Right Circle. Without your patronage, this and the book movement that you drive with your support, we authors would not exist, and we will not have the impact and the reach that we get to have thanks to them. I have done so many events with them, and I'm going all around India with my book and with Prabha Khaitan Foundation, and it's a very noble cause, and the founder herself was an embodiment of women's empowerment. So it's a privilege under her banner to be participating in all these events.